This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. So in the last class, we started the OData, the backend stuff, and we created the table. So we created the employee table and inserted two records in that. And after that, we created this OData project. And when you create the OData project, this is the structure, and we understand about the data model. So basically, the data model means modeling the data in such a way that in the form of entity sets and associations, so that your front end can consume your data model, because your front end cannot consume the direct backend stuff. And we also understand what is entity or entity type, and then entity set and association. So entity type is a structure or collection of fields, okay, and which resembles your backend database table. And entity set is it contains set of records of the same entity type. So this can also be treated as an internal table. So entity type is a structure, and entity set is a kind of internal table. And point to note that every entity type that you create, a corresponding entity set will be formed, automatically created. And I have shown this with a picture with the front and back end, and in the middle layer data model, right? Fine. All right. So in today's class, what we are going to do is we are going to create our first entity type. I'm going to create the entity type, and the entity type name is employee. I will create this entity and pull all the fields from my database table into this entity. Okay, so this is what I have shown you in the last class. So let me just open the diagram. I think this is a little old diagram. Yeah. So this is the front end, this is the back end. This is another example. Instead of employees, this is products example. So this is your data model layer. Now we are going to create an entity with the name employee. And in the employee entity, we are going to have the same database fields into this entity, so that the front end can talk to these fields. All right. Now let us go and create our first entity. So how to create the entity? There are two ways to create this entity. The one is you can straight away right click and click on create, so that your entity gets created. But in this way, you need to create field by field inside the entity. That means when you create the entity, it will ask the name. You will give the name of the entity as employee, and then you need to add field by field. If there are 10 fields, 10 times you need to click create new field like that, and you need to provide all the fields along with that data type. But in the real time, we don't do this because it takes a lot of time. But what we do is right click on the data model and use the option import DDIC structure. Import DDIC structure. When you use this option, it will ask you a table name. Okay. So this ABAP structure means table name. This name is your entity name. So let's give the entity name as employee. This is our entity name. In the diagram, this is the one. Okay. So this is product, but our example is employee. And in the ABAP structure, you need to provide the backend table name ZB70 underscore employees. Now, when you click on the next button, it will pull all the fields automatically from this table. Okay, so it shows the data source is this table, and these are all your fields. Now, out of these fields, how many fields you want into your entity. So that is what is the checkbox meant by. If you want all the fields, click on this. Or if you feel you do not want one or two fields, you can ignore them as well. Okay. For example, I don't want this rating. I can uncheck this as well so that the front end will not have this rating at all. Okay. So anyway, I'm selecting all of them. And after that, click next. And the left hand side, this is your ABAP table field names. And right hand side, these are your entity field names. Basically same. Okay, these are your table column names, and these are your entity field names. So this is my entity. Under the entity, these are the names that will come. Now, if you observe, the naming convention for the fields inside the entity, they are totally different from this backend ABAP field names. The backend ABAP, it is case insensitive, and automatically all the field names will be in capital letters. You can see all the column names are in the capital letters because they are the table column names. But in your entity, the naming convention is the first letter will be capital and all the remaining letters small. In case you have two words, then first word, first letter will be capital, and the second word, first letter will be capital. So every word's first letter will be capital. So this is the naming convention for the fields inside your entity. That is naming convention. See, naming convention means it is good to have, but technically you will not get any error even if it is not having. Remember, for example, this is EMPID, even if it is small e also, technically you will not get any error. That is just a naming convention. Now in this window, we need to select the primary key of this for this entity. We know that entity is just a reflection of your table. So the entity will also have a primary key. Obviously, the table's primary key becomes your entity primary key as well. So you need to select employee ID as a key and click on finish. And that's all. You can see one entity type got created, and you can see all the properties of this entity. So this is how the entity looks like. So this is all the properties of your entity. So instead of creating one by one, one by one, one by one, so it will pull all the fields directly in a single shot. Okay, fine. So let me open this diagram as well. SAP UI5 demo PPT. Yeah. So as of now, we have this employee table, and in the OData project, we created an entity. So this entity is nothing but a replication of this particular table. Okay. Normally, when you have a table, obviously all the CRUD operations are possible on the table. Now, what is CRUD operations? Creating a record in the table, updating the record in the table, deleting the record in the table, reading the record in the table. Query means querying the records in the table. So let me just give a small idea about what is query operations. Query operation. See, normally database operations in your DBMS database management system subject, you might have heard like it is CRUD operations, CRUD CRUD operations on any table. That is creating a record, updating a record, deleting the record, and reading the records. Now, what is this query operation? Query means querying the data. Querying the data means you can apply some filters, sorters as well on the data. Create, simply create the record. Update, simply update the record. Delete, simply delete the record. Read, simply read a single record. remember, read a single record by primary key. So how it is able to read the single record? Because the read operation passes the primary key. So obviously with the primary key, you will have only one record. So from the database, you will get only one record. For example, if I pass 100001, I will get Rahul. That's all, because with 100001, I will not have two employees. That is what is the meaning of primary key. Primary key means it's unique. You cannot have duplicate value for that, right? So read operation, read a single record by passing the primary key. It will pass the primary key, remember, by passing the primary key. Query operation means it can read multiple records and it can also apply some filtered, sorted. Okay, so basically query operation can read uh, total records or subset of records. So can read multiple records. So this is the main difference, guys. The query operation read multiple records, whereas the read operation read single record. Remember. So this is an interview question, certification question as well. Uh, so people will ask you what is the difference between read and query operation. So read can read single record by passing the primary key, but query can read all the records of the table also. It can read all the records of the table or subset of records. Subset of records means not total. If there are 100 records, I can read 50 records. How? By passing some filters. Like I want the employees whose skill is only SAP UI5. I want the employees with the designation senior developer. So like this, I can pass some filters and can read the subset of records, because I'm not reading total records. So that is why I'm calling subset of records. And I can also sort the data basing on the salary, ascending order, descending order, all that stuff you already seen in the demo, right? So that is the difference between the read and query operations. So remember, whenever you have a table, whenever you have a table can have all these five operations. All the five operations are possible on a single table. Okay, so I can create a record on the table, update the record on the table, I can read some record in the table, I can query the records in the table. Now let's say you have another table. Now today we have employee table, but we in the projects we do not have only single table, right? We will have multiple tables. Now let's say you have another table. Okay, you have another table. Now for that another table also, again all these five set of operations are possible. Obviously I can create record in the other table also, right? I can update record in the other table also. So the bottom line to understand is, whenever there is a table, on that table, all these five set of operations are possible. We need to write the logic. We need to implement the logic for all these five operations on the table. Okay, so this is the main part of the OData project. Writing the implementation logic for all the CRED queue operations is the main part of the any OData project. Okay, so how to write it, where to write it, you will understand in a while. Okay, right. Now, once you create at least one entity in your project, okay, so once at least one entity is ready, the next thing you need to do is you need to generate the runtime objects. So you can see there is an option, generate runtime objects. You need to select your project first and then click on generate runtime objects. Now, what is this generate runtime objects will do and what exactly you will get? Let us understand. So I clicked on generate runtime objects. and just click on continue. And if you want to save that in a package, save it. Otherwise, save that in a local object. Now let us see what happens. All right. Now we can see runtime objects generated successfully. And here in the, if you expand this runtime objects, so this is called the runtime artifacts or runtime objects, anything you can call it as. As a part of the runtime objects, there are a few things that gets generated. Let me write down here. Runtime objects or artifacts, whatever you call it. Now, the first thing that gets generated is your OData service. The moment you click that button, your OData service also gets generated. So we already discussed that this OData service is a output, one of the output of this OData project. So why we are creating OData project? Ultimately, we are creating OData project for two reasons. One is to implement the logic, the business logic for this credit queue operations. And second thing, even though you implement this logic for credit queue operations, your front end cannot call directly until unless there is a OData service in the middle. So your OData project can generate the OData service. So this OData service you need to keep in the SAP gateway system. Don't forget, guys, OData project we create in the backend system, not in the this system. So project will be here only. The generated OData service we keep in the SAP gateway system. So that you should never ever forget. I've seen most of the people by looking at this OData project name, they think that okay, OData means it is in the gateway. No, the entire project is in the backend system only. Only the generated service will be kept in the SAP gateway system. All right. So that is the first point is the OData service gets generated. So this service that got generated, we need to add this service. We need to add this service to SAP gateway system. Second, it generates something called DPC and DPC extension class, DPC extension class, and it also generates something called MPC and MPC extension class. Now, this is what you need to understand uh, very well. See, DPC stands for Data Provider Class. Data Provider Class. Now, what this class will do? This class provide or generates the methods corresponding to this CRUD queue operations. What it does? This DPC extension class that got generated, this class will automatically give you some methods inside this class. It generates some methods inside the class, and each method is corresponding for the CRUD queue operations of each entity. For each entity. Now I'm going to open this DPC extension class and show you what exactly this DPC extension class has. Then you will understand where to write the business logic. So as the name suggests, a data provider class. So this class is responsible to implement the CRUD queue operation logic. So just now we talked about each and every table in your database can have all these cred queue operations, right? Now, now where do you write the logic for create operation? Where do you write the logic for update operation? And the answer is we write the logic inside this DPC extension class, data provider class. Inside this class, it will generate a separate dedicated method for each and every operation for each and every entity. Okay, now let us see. Once I open, you will understand the picture. Now I'm going to open this DPC class. So by the way, it will have DPC and DPC extension, both the classes. DPC is called as base class and DPC extension is called as an extension class. You need to write the logic only in the DPC extension class, but not in the base class. Base class should be untouched by the developer. So don't touch this DPC. So whatever you want to write, write in the DPC extension class only. So even you write something in the DPC class, it will be gone, vanished. Okay, because it is a base class. Right. So now this is the DPC and this is DPC extension class. So you might be thinking, how do you know? Let me just drag it. Let me try to drag this. You can see DPC. This is DPC extension. Okay. So let me right click on this DPC extension class and uh, go to this ABAP workbench so that you can write, you can see the class, you can write the code. Click on go to ABAP workbench. All right. Now you can see at the top, you can see that this is a class slash interface. Means class or interface, that is a meaning, but this is a class. In ABAP, the class will have this naming convention, and that is ZCL. ZCL means class. Okay, and this is the DPC extension class. And you can see the methods inside the class. This is kind of a little object-oriented concept. So you should know a little bit of what is a class, what is a method. That's all. Okay. Uh, so if you are from little bit Java, very basics. If you have in Java, we have something called class, and inside the class we have methods. Okay. Now you need to drag down. Now we can see that this DPC extension class is generated with 5 methods. Let me read out these methods. Employee set underscore create entity. Employee set underscore create entity. 1 second. Now this is the corresponding method name that is generated by the DPC extension class to write the logic for creating a record in the employee table. Getting my point? This method is dedicated to write the logic for create operation for employee table only. Now, immediately one question that should come into your mind, and that is, let's say you have project table. There is another table, project table. Where do you write the logic for creating the record in the project table? When you when you have a project table separately, then you will create another entity. This is a employee entity. Then you will create another entity called project entity. When you create another entity and generate the runtime objects, at that time, your, your DPC extension class will generate another 5 set of methods dedicated for project entity. Okay, see all these methods, if you clearly observe, all these methods are prefixed with the name employee set. Meaning, the meaning of this is, was all these 5 set of methods I have created for employee entity only. That means using these 5 methods, you can write the logic for creating employee record, updating employee record, deleting employee record, reading employee record, and querying employee record only. You cannot write the logic for creating project record, updating project record. So that is the reason why each and every method, create entity, delete entity, update entity, get entity set, all these methods are prefixed with employee sets. Okay, so to create a record in the employee table, you need to write the logic in employee set underscore create underscore entity. So similarly, to update the records, you need to write the logic in employee set underscore update entity, and to delete the record, you need to write the logic in this employee set underscore delete entity, and to read the records, uh, where is yeah, this one, to read the record, remember, read the record, single record. So you need to write the logic in the employee set underscore get underscore entity, and to read multiple records, you need to write the logic in this employee set underscore get underscore entity set. Now, most of the people, they don't have any confusion in these first 3 methods, method names, employee set underscore create entity, update entity, delete entity. So self-explanatory names. But people, I have seen, even in the real time, people get confused between these 2 method names. Okay. You don't need to that much confused about the names. Get entity, it's a singular. Get entity set, it's plural. So get entity is singular, so it reads only single record. Get entity set, it is saying set. I want set of records. So this is plural. So that means query operation. Like this, you can remember. I normally remember like this only. Okay. All right. Now, tomorrow, if you create the next entity called project entity. So just like employee entity, when you create project entity, do you know what your DPC extension class will do? It will create, because project is also a table. So again, project will have create operation, update operation, delete operation. So all these operations will be available for project also. So the DPC extension class will create the separate methods, that is project set underscore create entity, project set underscore update entity, project set underscore delete entity, project set underscore get entity, project set underscore get entity set. Got it, guys? So for every entity that you create, that means for every table that you create, these 5 set of methods will be created by your DPC extension class. So here the methods are there. It does not mean that you must write the logic. If you have the requirement, you'll write it. If you do not have the requirement, you don't write it. Simple. Getting my point? If you have the requirement, you write it. If you do not have the requirement, don't write it. Simple. Okay. So that's about this DPC extension class. Now let's go to the MPC extension class. So 1 second. Yeah. So now let us see the next one, that is MPC and MPC extension class. Okay. So basically MPC stands for model provider class. Okay. The model provider class will take care of model related things. Okay. So model related things means what? At this moment, understanding this model provider class is little difficult, but just understand on a higher level, that is enough. Okay, the model provider class provides the access to your entities. Okay, so we know that the model under the modeling, so you have entities, entity sets. Okay, so you can get access to the entities, entity sets, okay, and associations as well. But anyway, we mainly access the entities. Uh, so you can get access to the entities, you can set some properties, and you can create your own data types, and the MPC extension class will automatically give you create some data types which you can ready to use. You can straight away use those data types instead of you create it from the beginning. Okay. So let me just open this MPC extension class. So let me go back. So this is the MPC extension class. Yeah. Now, this is your MPC extension class, and in this MPC extension class, you can go to the types. So we don't write any logic in the methods, remember, okay? So they are the framework generated methods, and we don't write any logic in these methods. Okay, so MPC is not for writing the logics. Okay, but MPC class, what it does, it creates some data types like TS underscore employee, which is a structure, TT underscore employee, which is a internal table. Okay, so which can hold multiple records of employee. Okay, so it just create a structure and one internal table for every entity that you create. And those who did not understand what I told about this MPC extension class, so I will tell one simple point for them. DPC is for writing the business logic for credit queue operations. Simple, one single statement. MPC is for structural related things. It is not at all related to data. It is about the structural related things. Okay. DPC data provides, MPC model provider class. Model means it is not at all having anything related to the data. It is structural related things. Okay. So basically, the MPC class takes care of the uh, creation of some data types, nothing but structures. Okay, and you can also create your own data types, and you can use them. Okay, in the DPC. So if you need them in the DPC, you can use them. Okay, so we don't write any logic in the MPC, guys. There is a bottom line you need to understand. All the business logic will be written in the DPC class. So MPC class generates some data types which you can use them, and if you want extra data types, that also you can uh, create. Okay, and one point is the model provider class. So this class give you the access to the entities. So you can access the entities that you have created. For example, I created an employee entity. So you can access this employee entity through the methods that is provided in this MPC extension class. Okay. So deep understanding about the MPC extension class, you will get to know in the future coming classes. However, 90% the developers will spend in DPC extension class only. 95%. Okay. So 95% of your job exists in DPC extension class only, not in the MPC extension class. So MPC extension class very rarely we use. Okay. Fine. So as a part of the runtime objects, we got three. One is OData service. Second one, DPC and DPC extension. Third one, MPC and MPC extension. All right. So now the next thing you need to do is, once your OData service also gets generated, this is the OData service. Immediate thing you need to do is, we need to add this OData service to the SAP gateway system, because if this OData service is still in this backend system, there is no use for the front-end SAP UI5 developer. The front-end SAP UI5 developer always call the OData service. So first of all, we need to keep this OData service in this SAP gateway system. Now, how to keep this OData, how to add this service, OData service to the SAP gateway system? Let us see. In real time, you will log into this SAP gateway system. But ours is a embedded system. All the training systems, I already told you, all the training systems are embedded systems. Embedded systems means both this SAP gateway system and backend system, they are in the single box. Okay. So basically what they do, they take the backend system, and in the backend system itself, they install this SAP gateway components also. The basis people will install all the SAP gateway components also in the backend system, so that the same system act like a backend system and gateway system. Okay. Now, so let's say this is I logged into the backend system. Okay, just resume. So let me keep this window and then I will go to the other window. Control N. I just opened a new window. Yeah. So just assume I logged into this SAP gateway system, and to add this OData service from this SAP backend system, what you need to do, you need to go to the T code called /n/iwfnd/main_service. Okay. So now let me click on, so after that, to add the service, you need to click on this add service button. If you see this table is all the OData services that are added to this SAP gateway layer. Okay, all the OData services till now that are added to this SAP gateway system. Now in this list, our OData project, sorry, OData service will not be there. So if you want, you can search. So let me click on search ZB70, click enter. So it is saying no hits found. So obviously we have not added this OData service. So that is the reason this does not showing in this list. Now click on add service. Now it will ask you, where is your OData service? The system alias means name of the system in which your OData service exists. See, you are here, you are in this box. Now this box is asking, boss, where is your OData service? Now you need to select this system. You need to select this particular system name. How do you know this particular system name? You can ask the basis team, they will tell you what is the name that they have given for this backend system. Each system will be denoted or indicated with a system alias. Okay, system alias, you can just call it as a name for the system. Okay, so you need to select this particular system name from this F4 help. Okay, so our is a embedded box, means as I told you, only backend system, and in the backend system they added the SAP gateway components as well. All the training systems will be like that only. In such a case, this system name, they will give it as local. Okay, so you can just type local, or you can also go to this F4 help and select this. This is the uh, local. All right. So from this first parameter, it understands that, okay, this is my system. This is the system in which the OData service is created. Okay. Now you need to give this OData service name so that that service name will be pulled from this backend system, and then it will be added to the SAP gateway system. Now, what is my OData service name? Probably you can go to your project. This is the project. Go to runtime artifacts and copy this service. Control C and paste here. So ZB70 underscore EMP underscore SRV is my service. Now click on this button Get Services. Now it will get this OData service from the back from this system that you have provided. Okay, so you are here. You said this is my system in which OData service is there. Then immediately it will pull that service into this. Now click on this service because we want to add this service. So click this and a window will open and just click on continue. Now you should get a message saying that this service is added successfully. Now let us read this message. Service B70 employee service was created and its metadata was loaded successfully. So that means the meaning of this one is this service is added successfully to the SAP gateway system. Okay. Now he mentioned a word about and its metadata was loaded successfully. So we'll talk about this metadata of this OData service. What is this metadata of this OData service in a while? Okay. Now let us go back. So you need to check once your OData service is added, you need to check in this table, is this present or not? Now you can see hit displayed 1. That means our OData service is added successfully. ZB70 underscore EMP underscore SR. Okay, yeah. So that's basically how to add the OData service. And the next thing is once the OData service is added successfully to the SAP gateway system, the next thing you need to do is you need to provide, if you are a backend developer, for example, you need to provide the URL, OData service URL to the front-end SAP UI5 developer. Okay, so how can you provide this OData service URL to the front-end SAP UI5 developer? You need to select it and you need to click on call browser button. Okay, so click on call browser button and let us see what happens. So I clicked on call browser button. Some URL has opened in this browser and it is asking the username and password. So I'm entering the username and password. And now you can see some document has come. So let's forget about what is loaded here, but we need to understand about this one. Control C. Let me open this paint. One second. Let me just paste it here. All right. Now this is called as OData service URL. So it automatically comes with question mark dollar format equal to XML. So this indicates that to display this OData service in a XML format. Okay, you can see this is actually XML. You can see some tags here. Okay, so tag based language. So that is the meaning of question mark dollar format equal to XML. But even if you remove this, it will always display in XML format only. So I just removed it question mark dollar format equal to XML, and I'm hitting enter. So that is actually not needed. Okay, question mark dollar format equal to XML is not needed. Your OData service always displays in XML format only. Now, by looking at this, some people get afraid, and some people, uh, they think, "Arey yaar, ye mujhse nahi hota." Okay, so don't get into some conclusions. Okay, so this is very easy. Don't worry. So we don't much worry about this document, XML document that was appearing here. All right. Now let us first of all understand this OData service URL. So what exactly is this? This particular URL, okay, this will be given to the front-end developers. This will be given to the front-end developers by the back-end developers. Okay, and this is called as OData service URL. Okay. However, I just want to break this and make you understand, this entire URL. So in this URL, my dear friends, from here to here, from here to here, this is called as the domain name and port number. This is called as 4hana.ids.com is the domain name of our server. Domain name of our server. So here there are two boxes, but you assume this is a single box. Okay. So this is the domain name of our server. What is domain name? So basically the s4hana.ids.com will point to the server, our training server. Okay, so whenever somebody hits http://s4hana.ids.com, so this our training system will hit. Okay, and 8034 is the port number in which our OData service is running. Okay, so every service will run in a different port, and this is the port where our OData service is running. So in simple words, this red color line, when you hit this red color line, so what it does, wherever you are in the world, it will point to our training server. Okay. Now the next thing it is saying is, once you reach the server, boss, go to this path /sap/opu/odata/sap. So this path is kind of you know it's a kind of folders inside the server. You can assume it like several folders. So this is called as namespace where your OData service exists. And this is a fixed namespace, guys. All the OData services will exist in this path only. So once the requests get into the server, inside the server /sap/opu/odata/sap, this is called as a namespace. Okay. So in this hierarchy, in this folder structure, your OData service will reside. Okay. Now the last one is your OData service. This is called as OData service name. This is the actual OData service. This is my OData service. Got it? So there are three parts in this OData service URL. First one, domain name. Second one, domain name means server. Second one, inside the server, the path where the OData service exists. So there is a path. Once you go to that path, then you will have your service name. That is the OData service. I will compare this like your house address. For example, if I have to tell my house address, so I will first tell the city, Hyderabad. That means first you need to come to Hyderabad. And in Hyderabad again, you need to come to Manikonda. Okay. So Manikonda is the one area. And again, when you come to Manikonda, again you need to come to some road number 25. And again in the road number 25, I need to tell my apartment name. And in the apartment name, there are so many flats. So tell me which flat it is. Same to same, same to same, no difference, right? So, boss, first of all, you need to reach this server. Which server? SAP Gateway System. Once you reach the server, go in this path. Once you go to that path, then you will find your OData service. Okay. Now, so I'm giving this particular URL in the chart window. I'm giving this URL in the chart window. So one of you just copy that URL and paste it in your browser and tell me what you are getting. So somebody please try. I kept this in the chart window. Just copy it and paste it in the chart in the browser and tell me what you are getting. Come on, guys. Tell me what you are getting. Any one of you. Are you there?
Not loading for me, Rizwan. It is not loading.
So
The page is not
Sushma
loading.
is saying, so it is giving page not loading, correct? Right. So
Yes.
even if every one of you try also, you will get the error, page not loading. So why are you getting this error? Whereas I am able to load this OData service document, this XML document. So why you are not able to load? The reason is, see, this is a training server, okay? And this particular domain name, s4hanaids.com, this is obviously a domain name, but this is a local domain name. This is not a public domain name. To make this domain as public, you need to purchase this particular domain name, okay? So this is not a public domain name, my dear friends. It's, but in real time, whatever the clients you are using, that will be a public domain name. Don't worry about it. It's a local domain name, not public domain name. So what do you mean by it's not a public domain name? Okay, it's, let me write it as like, it's not public domain name. So public domain name means when I hit facebook.com, okay, see, just like s4hanaids.com, facebook.com is also a domain name, correct? So when you hit facebook.com, you are getting the page. But when you are typing s4hanaids.com, you are not getting the page. What is the difference? They have purchased that domain name with the name facebook.com. But this fellow, not this fellow, no training institutes will purchase the domain name. So this domain is not a public domain name, and that is the reason from your system it is not working. Then immediate question that you should ask me, then this one, how it is working for you? It is not public domain name, then how it is working for you? The reason is, whatever the local domain names are there, they will be mentioned in a, so you need to open this run and you need to go to drivers, and in the drivers there is a file called etc. Okay, someday in your entire life till now you might have opened this etc folder, and here there is a host file. Okay, so you, most of you might be having some experience one or the other day to open this host file. Now right click and just let me open this with a notepad. So just double click on that, that is also fine. Open this with a notepad. Now let me open this. So this is my host file. So this host file, what it contains the domain name mapped to the IP address. Okay. Now when this URL was opened in my browser, my system, what it does, my laptop, what it does, it checks, is there any entry for this domain name in the host entry, in the host file. s4hanaideas.com. So I said that, boss, wherever you find s4hanaideas.com, replace this with this IP address. And what is this IP address? Now let us go here. Training new system, properties. Now this is the IP address of our training system. This is nothing but the IP address of my training system. And that is the reason it is working for me. So if you want this URL to work for you as well, then there are two options. First option is you need to open this host file and give the same line saying that, boss, wherever you find s4hanaideas.com, please replace this with the IP address. So you need to add this line in your host entry file. So this also I'm keeping it in the chart window. This also I'm keeping it in the chart window. You just, if you want to add it, you can add it. This is after adding this, yes, definitely it will work. But adding this entry in the host file needs admin permissions. It needs admin permissions. And I'm sure if you are using Office laptops, most of you do not have the permission. Most of you will not get the admin access, right? You need to add this entry in the host file, and definitely it will prompt for admin username and password. So the other alternative, let's say you cannot add this entry in the host file. The other alternative is in the browser when it opens with s4hanaideas.com. Now what you need to do is take this URL in a notepad, copy that into just a notepad like this, okay? And in place of s4hanaideas.com, you remove this and keep that IP address. So anyway, it is going to replace by IP address even with the system. System also does the same, okay? So http:// instead of keeping s4hanaideas.com, anyway that s4hanaideas.com is replaced by this IP address only by the system. Now you do it, whatever the system is doing, you do it. So you only keep this IP address here. Now copy this URL and I am pasting this URL in the chart window. Now Sushma, tell me, because you only responded previously. Now copy this URL and paste it in the browser. Are you getting username and password
Yes,
dialog
yes,
to log in? Yes,
yes,
right? So that
yes.
is what is this is called the OData service URL. So guys, if you don't want to get into the headache of updating this host file, just ignore it. What, not a big matter. Just use this URL. Okay. So all of you, please copy this URL from the chart window uh, because that is a OData service URL. And I know this is my OData service. Okay. This is whatever the OData service that I have given. That is my OData service. If you create a OData project, you will get another OData service, whatever the name that you have given. Okay. All right. Now, the last thing that we are going to understand in today's class is metadata of OData service URL. So this is also very important. It won't take more than a minute. Just wait. When we added the OData service to the SAP Gateway system, you might have observed that there is a message, and the message is the service is added and its metadata loaded successfully. Now, what is its metadata? Its metadata means the metadata of OData service URL. Now, this URL is called as OData service URL, and the metadata of this OData service URL can be, we can retrieve by adding /$metadata. Okay. After the OData service URL, if you write /$metadata, then you will get this nice document. So this document, XML document, is called as the metadata of OData service, whatever the service that you created. So this particular service metadata document. The meaning of metadata means data about OData service. The information about the OData service is called the metadata document. Simple. This is your OData service. Slash dollar metadata means metadata definition is a data about your service. Data or information about your service. That means what is there in your OData service? What do you have created in your OData project as a part of the data model? So I told you already that your OData project is created here only. Okay. Even in your OData project, the data model, it is also part of your OData project only. And we also know that SAP UI5 talks to only the data model. SAP UI5 talks to data model. And what is there in the data model? Entities, entity sets, associations. So this data model information will be given in this metadata document. Okay. So this metadata document is a Bible, Quran and Bhagavad Gita for SAP UI5 developers. The front-end developers I am talking about. You till now, whatever I have done in the back end, if you do not understand, absolutely fine. Those who are attending this training as a front-end developer, if you do not understand whatever we have done in the back end till now, yesterday's class and even today's class, if you do not understand, absolutely fine, no problem at all. But what you need to understand is the OData person, the developer, ABAPer, will give you this service. He will give you this service. Now, what you need to do is hit this service and add the dollar metadata to the URL. Now, this document will come. Now, you need to understand this document. You need to understand this document. Now, what this document is saying, boss, there is a entity called employee, entity or entity type called employee. There is an employee entity. From that, what you can understand is like there is a table in the back end called employee. Employee table is there. Okay. Now in this employee table, the primary key is employee ID. Okay. Next, this table is having 10 fields: employee ID, name, designation, skill, email, phone, salary, date of joining, rating, status, and the corresponding data type is this one. String means character. Okay, and the length of each and every field is this one. So that also you can understand from this metadata document. Okay, so rating is a byte. Byte means integer. Okay, so status like this, you can clearly understand, okay, this fellow created one entity called employee. That means there is an employee table in the backend. Okay, fine. Next, you can also find another tag called entity container, which tells the, which tells the who is the corresponding entity set for this entity type. So employee is the entity type, and you can see entity type is employee and the entity set is employee set. So from this, you can understand that, okay, employee is entity type and employee set is its entity set, its corresponding entity set. So the mapping of entity type and the entity set will be written inside the entity container. So this is what you need to understand. You no need to understand what is happening in the backend. That is none of your business, but you need to understand this document. So in this document, it is a XML document, but you no need to worry much about this XML. Okay, you are not going to type this. You just need to concentrate on what are the entities that this OData service is having. Okay, this is having an employee entity. This is Yeah, that's all. As of now, it is having employee entity, and employee set is the corresponding entity set for this employee. So that's all, guys. For the front end developers, this is what you need to understand. Okay, so that's all for today. And in tomorrow's class, we are going to implement, we are going to write the business logic for our first operation. We start from the bottom, that is query operation. So query operation can read all the records from the table. Yes, I already told you, right? Query operation can read all the records from the table or subset of records by applying filters as well. So we won't concentrate on applying filters first. First, we'll be concentrating on reading all the records. Okay. So we are going to implement the business logic. And after that, we will see how we can call this query operation from SAP UI file. Okay. So that these two records, Venki data and Rahul's data, will come from this employee table all together to the front end SAP UI file. So that is the plan for tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Okay. All right. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can leave for today. Okay. Fine then. So we'll meet in tomorrow's class. Have a nice day. Bye bye, guys.